Black lives are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back.
A call for action and fight for change.
We will not be silenced.
Community members and leaders made their voices heard in front of Allentown City Hall Monday afternoon.
Just to think that people have to go to work in fear for their lives.
Since Friday, Allentown police continue to investigate an item resembling a noose found on a city employee's desk.
This egregious act is not just an affront to one individual, but it is an attack on the entire community.
Several spoke during a rally, calling for transparency, prevention, and an immediate federal investigation among a list of demands. This incident, community members note, is not the first racial discrimination issue City Hall has dealt with. Josie Lopez is a close friend of the victim.
They're always a community leader, always pushing for equality. They might be bruised right now, but they are not broken.
The victim is not being named due to safety concerns.
Our colleague was threatened. This was an act of terror. This was a hate crime.
Now, that was January the 10th of this year. But since then, the truth came out. Now, I'm going to read to you what the police department, the local police department of Allentown, PA, they did their investigation. And, well, guess what happened? Let's get into it. I'm going to read it to you. Okay, so it says, on January the 10th, 2025, at approximately 7:11 a.m., Allentown City employee LaTarsha Brown arrived at her office on the third floor of City Hall. At approximately 7:38 a.m., Miss Brown notified the Allentown Police Department that she discovered what she believed to be a noose on her desk upon arriving at work. Officers assigned to the Community Outreach Center, Crime Scene and Identification Unit, and Criminal Investigations Unit responded, initiating a criminal investigation to identify the individual responsible for placing the noose on Miss Brown's desk. During the investigation, video surveillance and building access control records were reviewed to identify city employees present on the third floor of City Hall between the time Miss Brown left work on the afternoon of January the 9th, 2025, and her arrival on the morning of January the 10th. Those employees were interviewed, and each were asked if they would provide a buccal swab for DNA testing if needed. Every city employee agreed, except Miss Brown. Now, gee, I wonder why she would not accept that. Initially cooperative, Miss Brown later requested that the investigation be discontinued. Now, hold on for a second. Hold on. Now, didn't you had the whole NAACP and Full Force out there, Full Force MD. They were all out there stomping the pavement, calling for a federal investigation. This can't be tolerated or whatever. But behind the scenes, she was telling them, hey, listen, let's just cut it. We don't need to go any further. Anyway, let's read on. The noose was submitted to the Pennsylvania State Police Crime Lab for DNA testing on January the 14th, 2025. On January the 24th, 2025, a search warrant was approved for the Lehigh County DA's office for Miss Brown's DNA, and DNA sample was obtained that same day. On January the 27th, 2025, Miss Brown's buccal swab was submitted to the Bethlehem Regional Crime Lab of the Pennsylvania State Police for comparison with DNA profiles recovered from the noose. On March the 10th, 2025, the Forensic DNA Division of the Pennsylvania State Police issued a written report indicating that Miss Brown's DNA matched the DNA profile obtained from the swabs of both the other surface and the outer surface and the inner knotted portion of the noose after taken apart. No other person's DNA profiles were found on the evidentiary items involved in this investigation. Now you see why she didn't want to take the DNA test and wanted to cut it off. As a result of this investigation, earlier today, Detective Harold Bosner of the Allentown Police Department filed charges against LaTarsha Brown at District Court 31-201 for the following criminal offenses: tampering with or fabricating physical evidence. That's a misdemeanor of the second degree. And then false reports to law enforcement authorities. That's a misdemeanor of the third degree. And then it goes on, and they just say that they, law enforcement saying, they want to thank everybody involved in investigating this whole situation here. Now, we got to go back here because, here we go again. And this is why we cover this kind of stuff here. And I know some people get mad at it, but I'm sorry, it is what it is. You have this group of people that identify themselves as the 92%. And why I keep harping on that? Because they were doing it. If you go back here, let me go ahead and pull this up here. If you go back here, I actually posted on this story earlier today on our community page here on YouTube. She's very much in. This is her, the 92%. This is from her Instagram. Well, this is from Instagram when she was running for school director or, part of the school board, I believe it was. And she's saying here, she served on the board since 2021 and is deeply committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. She wasn't a Trump person on that. But again, we're going to continue to call these people out because of the danger they are, number one, to other black folks. And the danger they are to our older black community members, and the danger they are to greater society. Now, let me be clear again. This is not saying all black women fall into this category. I had someone leave a comment earlier saying that these women here represent all, alluding to believing that this one individual has a reflection on all black women. No, they don't, because that's a mindset as black folks we got to break out of, because just because you got a few fools, that don't mean that they represent the whole. And we got to start drawing the line to the foolishness that's amongst our own. And we got to start putting them on the side because they do not represent the whole. These individuals, this woman does not represent all black women, period. So let me be very, very clear with that. But it does represent a segment of a demographic within our specific group who made it very clear that by any means necessary, they wanted to see the Indian woman in office. And they're willing to do anything. They're willing to throw down and to say all kind of wicked things against straight black men. That seemed like that was all their energy towards that.
The way that black men hate black women, I will never understand it. They treat everybody in the world better than they treat black women. The only black woman they love is their mama. Like, explain the behavior. Why do y'all hate us so bad? Why do y'all manipulate us? Why do y'all do everything to tarnish us?
I really do not like crying on the internet, but I'm not even about to pretend like this some shit that I'm finna be embarrassed about, bro. Like, I ain't never been so fucking devastated behind an election. And it's just like, when you a black woman surrounded by black men and they saying all this shit like, oh, he's not that bad and oh, he just hates everyone, bro. Like, it was my brother homeboy I was talking to the other day, a black man, and I found out that he's a Trump supporter. I'm like, he does not like you. And he was like, oh no, he just don't like everybody. What? So that's a good candidate for you? Someone who just fucking hates everybody? Like, what? And I'm fucking crying in my room this morning. My brother gonna come up in here and say, what's wrong with you? Like, he can't think of one possible reason why I would be upset right now, bro. These niggas are so fucking, they live on another planet.
But misogyny, that remains one of the biggest issues. And maybe we needed to be reminded of that. Because maybe we started to think that we had more support and that people actually cared about women and that there was unity within our community. But now we see crystal clear, right?
If you don't vote for this Indian woman, then this is, then doom and gloom is going to come on you. Curses be upon you. We want to see you dead and all this other stuff. All kinds of murderous stuff that they were saying. All kinds of lies and stuff that they were putting on black men, accusing us of not liking or hating black women because we had questions about this Indian woman in office. And so since then, now that the election already took place and you see the results of it, they resorted to saying, hey, listen, we're going to be on the rooftop. And as America is burning, don't come running to us. And America said, okay, we won't run to you. We're going to continue about our business. But that's not good enough for them. So now they got to continue to drum up these false stories here. And the reason why I'm pointing this out here is because if you looked at our last broadcast, we talked about this before, how the media was taking stories out of context. And this was about something that was going on in the Trump administration, trying to spin this story that somehow that segregation was coming back to bathrooms. And we showed you in that video how all the mainstream media outlets were using these old Jim Crowish. So it says segregated facilities are no longer, and they put it in quotes. They put it in quotes. They do that for a reason. All right. Are no longer explicitly banned in federal contracts. And then look at the imagery that they're using. This is imagery that will automatically grab the attention of a specific demographic, wouldn't it? Black folks. And not just black folks of a certain age who remember these things. And when you see these images, it automatically puts something in your mind, right? It's like PTSD for a lot of black folks who went through this. Time images trying to emphasize that, they're bringing segregation back. Now, who does that resonate with the most? It resonates most with the people who went through Jim Crow. And as I said in that video, a lot of people who went through that time, not all, but many, they still dealing with PTSD during that time. You understand? And so you have people out here in the political space who know this. And this is why they keep bringing up this imagery over and over again, because they know it's going to trigger these people. They know this, and they are all about triggering our older population into fear that the sky is falling, that Jim Crow is coming back, that slavery is just around the corner. This is all that comes out of their mouth over and over again. And as I implied, as I said in my post, if you read it, is that the majority, the loudest voices that you see in this movement to scare our elders is coming from the black women who fall within that 92%. Because that is all they've been putting out and encouraging and saying that, slavery's coming back and, racism is at its all-time high and all this other stuff. And they're just keeping amping this stuff up over and over again. There are many of our elders out here that they're getting conflicted stories on a number of things, and they're repeating a lot of this stuff. So that's why we have to use our platform to say, no, let's bring the truth in here. Now, this woman, what she did is to continue to build on this lie by now bringing up nooses. Now, nooses, is something that definitely was part of the Jim Crow era. And so who is that going to resonate with the most? People who went through that time. And as you saw in that video there, who did you see mostly in that video? Did you see young people in there? No, it was older people. And they were mad. I mean, they was out there, protesting and everything. But now this truth comes out. Now what? You understand what I'm saying? You got people all over that's watching that video and thinking that, oh my God, how dare they do this to this woman? This is happening all over the place. But at the end of the day, we're finding out the truth, aren't we? That no, she did it. And when I heard this story, I said to myself, I said, I might be wrong on this. I said, but isn't that a federal crime? When because that falls, like the woman was saying in the video, that's a hate crime, right? Well, I thought about it and I ran it through ChatGPT, and it's very close to being that, because if you read the act itself, in fact, let me pull this up here for you. So this was the closest this would fall under would be the Matthew Shepard and the James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act of 2009. And it could fall under there. However, because, again, it's very cloudy, because you're dealing with a situation where you have a black woman who was basically filing a false police report. It wasn't her intention to intimidate a group of people, right? But I would argue that and say it was, because again, she's trying to scare up people to get them to start feeling a certain way. So you could make an argument like that, but I don't know if that would stand in court. However, what would stand in court would be, the filing a false police report and falsifying evidence. Those things would stand in court only on the state level. But I, so that was the thought I had on it, because as far as I'm concerned, anybody, and I mean anybody, I don't care if they're white, I don't care if they're black, I don't care if they're Hispanic, I don't care if they're Asian, I don't care if they're Jewish, I don't care. If you're going to start troping out these, these imageries that are like, for example, like a burning cross or the noose or whatever, mammy dolls or whatever, if you're going to be getting into that, that should be treated as a hate crime as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean? I don't care who's doing it. And whatever the federal law says on that, you should get the whole thing. I don't care. Now, as I was looking in this, I was looking over this, I was like, wait a minute, let me think on this for a second. Let me look at this a little bit closer, because I remember this hate crime bill, the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act of 2009. I remember the whole James Byrd thing. I remember that. James Byrd Jr., this was down in Jasper, Texas, if I'm not mistaken. He was a man who basically was accosted by 3 white men who basically lynched them after they killed him. Then they tied him up to the back of a truck and then drove like 3 miles. It was horrible what they did to him. And so you would think that would have constituted alone its own hate crime bill. But it didn't. It was kind of like lofting in the air until then you had Matthew Shepard. Matthew Shepard was a homosexual man who, again, it was a similar situation. However, it was no lynching involved, but he was murdered by 3 white men. Matthew Shepard was white too, and they murdered him because of his gender preference. And so it wasn't until Obama, here we go again with Obama. Go back to the last video we did. Obama comes into the picture again to gayify the whole thing. So what he did, he took Matthew Shepard's story and bundled it up with the story regarding James Byrd Jr. and said, okay, we are going to put this together and we're going to create this thing called we're going to call it its own hate crime bill. So, and then he did this, like I said, in 2009. So it was Obama who took the existing civil rights bill that was already in place and he added this to it, but he didn't do it because he was motivated by James Byrd Jr.'s murder. He did it so that he could put this in here, the sexual orientation, gender identity, gender stuff. That's why Obama did it, because if that wasn't a part of it, there would be no hate crime bill. So again, this is all what Obama did, for black folks. You know what I'm saying? And so now the chickens are coming home to roost on that. So you had no value as a black person unless there was a LGBT cause hitched to it. That's what they did. So anyway, that's it. I just wanted to share this story with you. We're going to continue to stay on top of these stories, because enough is enough, y'all. I am tired of the foolishness. I'm tired of these individuals who will keep pounding our elders with these images that are very traumatic in of itself, and all these different references, telling them that somehow that slavery is coming back and, Jim Crow is back, and, that glow that you see on the street, you better question it. Is that a cross? Does it look like a cross, a burning cross, and all this other nonsense? That needs to stop. And the people that keep using these imageries over and over again to push their agendas, their behinds need to be under the jail. We need to stop the foolishness and let our elders live their lives in peace, and also give them truth along the way. All right. That's all I have for you. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll be talking again soon.